Welcome to the ANEW Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogram Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. I follow my guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us.
Welcome back, everyone. We are back for the second half of our interview with powerhouse mother, Jennifer Swann. In the last half, Kennedy just gave us amazing insight into her path towards truly living a full and beautiful life. Now it's my turn to pick Jennifer's brain, and I am so excited because I got to just tell you, everyone, I know I said this before, these two blew me away at TEDx Temecula, and they really left quite the impression. I will say all of the people that I had there, I was kind of hinting at what they might see. I was like, you just got to wait. Just wait. I have to go and give Kennedy a pep talk, but just you wait. And afterwards, I talked to everyone that I was with, and they said that they were just in tears, so inspired. Just they loved this talk so much. I cannot wait for it to come out. So, Jennifer, take us back in time. It had to have been so stressful to you when Kennedy was first diagnosed. How did that moment change you, and what helped you find resilience through uncertainty?
In the beginning, when she was diagnosed, the prognosis was less than 2 years. In fact, by a year old, 80% of children with her disease had already passed away. By 2 years, it was 90%. So you hear that in reference to your own child, and obviously it's just completely devastating. So there was this really profound, deep period of mourning because we just didn't expect to get that much time with her. And it was really, really challenging learning because her disease progressed so quickly. She was diagnosed at 9 months old. By about a month later, she was choking on her foods, and she needed a G-tube. About a month later, she needed respiratory support. Then she needed help with a machine that would cough for her. So it was like every few weeks we were learning a new machine. She has 7 machines that she uses every day. And it was overwhelming, and it was heartbreaking because all these dreams that you had in your head that you just, at least I took for granted, would come true were just gone. They were just gone. And at that time, in my mind, there wasn't like a different version of the life that we might be living because we didn't expect her to live past, 2, or maybe we'd get to 3 or something. But it, devastating is the only word I can use to describe it. Resilience came very slowly for me. It was 6 months after her diagnosis that my son was diagnosed on the autism spectrum. And honestly, in that conversation, that was not on our radar. And I remember in that conversation, just looking at the clinical psychologist who gave us the diagnosis and being like, no, no. There was just no bandwidth for anything else at that time. And it was really, really overwhelming. And resilience really only came when we started embracing the things that were in alignment with what we wanted in our life. Because the more we focused on, she got a cold, now she's back in the hospital with pneumonia, the more of that experience we got. And when we really started leaning into living more is really when the resilience was just, I don't know, maybe that was the resilience, but that it was certainly a side effect of those choices.
Yes. Well, I find it so interesting. When you talked about it in your talk, you basically said that everything kind of just shut down. You went on lockdown. So I want to talk about that real quick. But if you could give us first, were there signs of her SMA? And is that what brought you to the doctor? What did you notice in her that was not, within the kind of
Yeah.
normal developmental range?
Yeah. So at about 2 months old, I noticed that she was not holding her head up, but she had been holding her head up. And when, we did tummy time when they were babies, we'd put them on their tummy to practice lifting their head and looking around the room, and she couldn't lift her head. And she was in therapy by the time she was 4 months old with a developmental physical therapist. But she didn't present typically as a type 1, which is the type she has. There's actually 4 types of SMA. And so that wasn't really on anybody's radar. So we were going to the doctor and we were kind of being told, I don't really know. She obviously has hypotonia, but we don't really know what this is. And I remember it was so funny. Like, she rolled at 4 months old. And I remember in my head, there's like the milestones they hit. And I'm like, check, she's rolled at 4 months old. And then she never rolled again. And
Wow.
and everything just started, that she just wasn't progressing. And so it was really at about 7 months old that people were like, okay, like the doctors were like, something's clearly off, and it doesn't just seem to be an unexplained hypotonia. So low muscle tone. So that's when they started digging some more, and we did some genetic testing, and it was a simple blood test that told us that she had SMA.
And is it a genetic disorder?
Yes, it's a genetic disorder, and it is recessively inherited. So both her dad and I have the gene for it. We had no idea that we had the gene. Neither one of us had any family history that we were aware of. So it's not like it was, in the realm of possibility for us. We just had no idea. And at that time, it wasn't really screened for anyway. Like, if we had done prenatal testing, it wouldn't have come up. I will say today, there's an organization out there called Cure SMA, which has helped spearhead lobbying like across the United States. And now there is genetic testing for SMA that is part of newborn screening. So
Wow.
every single baby born today in the United States is screened for SMA. And today there are 3 treatments on the market for it. So when they get screened, they know immediately, and they can get treated in many cases before they're symptomatic.
Does early treatment help their prognosis?
Early treatment makes all of the difference, because the way the disease progresses is that SMA is where your body can't make enough of a certain protein that motor neurons in the spinal cord need to survive. So the motor neurons start dying off. And what happens when the motor neuron dies off is that the connection between the muscle and the motor neuron is gone. Now there's no motor neuron, there's no axon connecting to the muscle, and then the muscle atrophies. So from where we sit today, there's no way to replace lost motor neurons. So the key to successful treatment is to treat before the motor neurons are lost.
Wow.
And that happens very, very rapidly with type 1 SMA.
Wow. So I can only imagine, and you described when you got this diagnosis and how devastated you felt. You put everybody pretty much on lockdown in order to try to keep Kennedy from getting sick, bringing in bugs from outside. Just describe what that was like, just to pull away from society and to be isolated in that way.
There was a level of comfort in it because I thought I was doing the right thing to keep my daughter safe. But there was also just this, it was everything felt terrifying. Like, even if I went out, I used to joke that I was like an expert in the type of cough that someone had, because I could hear someone cough from like a mile away and I'd be like, oh, that's a smoker's cough. I don't need to worry about that. Or, oh, that's bronchitis, but they've had that cough for like 3 weeks. I don't need to worry about that. And I'm like, oh, that is an acute illness. Stay the heck away from me.
Wow.
I literally was like the biggest germaphobe because, I was the direct line of contact to my daughter. If I got sick, the ship was going down, like she was getting it. And it was, even being at home, we couldn't, completely cut ourselves off. Her dad was still going to work and we wanted her brother to have as normal an experience as he could. We didn't want to deny him that. So he started preschool, which, most kids who start preschool, they come home immediately.
Oh my gosh.
Sickness. So
it's a germ factory.
Yes. So it was this weird like confluence of like, this feels like the safest thing. And yet it's not playing out like we're really safe at all. Like, so it was we weren't getting the result we wanted out of it in terms of she's still getting sick and we're like hardly leaving the house with her.
So what was the turning point then for you? You talk about it in the TEDx talk, but what shifted for you where you were like, this is just no way to live?
So we were in the ICU with her. Whenever she got hospitalized, it was straight to the ICU. And we would be in the hospital for like 10 days, 14 days, 2.5 weeks at a time with any given illness. She would develop pneumonia. It was, we were doing respiratory treatments round the clock, sometimes every 2 to 4 hours. And I was sitting in the ICU with her during one of these hospitalizations. And I was completely depleted, completely overwhelmed, missing my son and feeling like, I was not able to show up for him the way that I wanted to because my daughter's life was literally in jeopardy. And I just started daydreaming. And I started thinking about like, gosh, Kennedy really loves Disney. We all really love Disney. What would it be like to go on a Disney cruise? And the thought kind of popped into my head and I was like, that's totally insane. There's no way. But then it wouldn't leave. And the more time I had in that hospital, just staring at the walls and all the equipment and hearing the beeping, and I was like, could we really do that? Like, what would that be like? And I mentioned it to my husband, and he was like, he was all for it, honestly. He wasn't the one who was really pushing lockdown mode. That was me. And so then we started talking to the doctors, and they were like, no, absolutely not. That's totally insane. You do realize the condition that your daughter has. You've been in the hospital with her. She gets pneumonia. Like, what if she needs to be intubated with a breathing tube? Is a doctor on a cruise ship going to know how to do that? And like, it's a petri dish. Like this, we really, really caution you against this. And that was what I was hearing from every single specialist who was treating her. But there was this pull that was like, no, you're supposed to do this.
Wow.
Like you're being called to this and you need to do this. And that's really where it started.
Oh my goodness. And then it just took off from there. And then it was really the sky is the limit for Kennedy.
Yeah.
I mean, describe just briefly, like all the things that opened up for her. Just give me a list.
So it's funny because I like to describe it to people as like, when I finally got ready to like take the lid off of her, then she was like, here we go. And she immediately wanted to go to preschool, which kids with her condition really weren't doing. I mean, we knew a handful of them across the country. But I mean, by the way, that means, she was 3.5. She had made it past 2 years old. So she wanted to go to preschool. And I was like, okay, let's try it. So we started with preschool, but then we're like, but I'm not sending you in cold and flu season. You have to do school from home in cold and flu season. So for the first, year she went to preschool, we took her out in the winter and she did school from home, but she was like, I want to go back to school. I miss my friends. And she was always pushing me to let her do more. And so she did She went to school in person. She's been going to school in person ever since. She is a 10th grader now in high school. She goes to school in person. She is on a modified schedule because she has stamina issues, but she does what works for her. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we went on like 9 cruises with her. We've flown to Hawaii twice. We've been to Walt Disney World twice. We've taken 2 cross-country trips with trains. She told me it was actually right after COVID, she wanted to do musical theater.
That's the best.
And I was like, okay, okay, let me see how we can make this happen. And so I, made some calls and found a group that was willing to work with her and allow a caregiver or me on stage with her. And so she's been doing musical theater. She's doing her 7th show right now. She and I are doing Elf together. And she's very proud to announce that she has the part of Mrs. Claus. So she's very excited about that. She did color guard her first year in school, and of course, all of it's modified to make it work for her. We do what she can do with it. She did show choir her freshman year of high school, and we did what she could do. She's on stage with her aide from school. She's taking ceramics this year in high school. She does, and this is the most hilarious thing. She is such a typical teenager. When she wants to do something outside of the house, I have a life now. I didn't always have a life after.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into that.
But I do have a life, and sometimes I can't take her where she wants to go. And she, for all intents and purposes, she has her own car, because everyone else has their own vehicle, and we have an accessible vehicle for her. So she just finds another adult who will drive the car, and, she'll go with a nurse, and that person will drive her where she wants to go. It's like she's finding her ride, even though they're driving her accessible van.
That's awesome.
She really just, she just doesn't see anything as out of the range of possibility for herself.
Well, I would have to say you don't either. You have had all of these requests and they have seemed impossible, but your mind is the first to go, how? And is there a way? And you've made it happen, which I think, it just shows the two of you are definitely related. And I really want to know about that moment when you realized that you had stopped your life, and how and in what way did you start it back up again?
So honestly, that was a very slow process for me. I think, in the beginning, I really believed that it was my calling to serve my children, and particularly to serve her in this way, because she required 24-hour care. And I really was at peace with that. But at the same time, when I was at peace with that, I also had it in the back of my mind that this was going to be a couple of years, maybe. We really didn't have any expectation of her surviving in, even to see kindergarten, for example. So by the time I was many, many years into this, I knew that there was like this discontent in me, but I really didn't know how to do it any differently. I was like, how am I going to do anything different than I'm already doing? I have these 2 kids who both have extraordinary needs, and it didn't seem possible to me, but I did start doing things for me. And the first part of that, honestly, was accepting more help, because, there are plenty of caregivers out there who are like, I'm the one who's supposed to be taking care of my kiddo, and I'm going to do it 24/7, and I'm the best, and I'm this, and I'm that. And I totally respect the decision that people make for their own family. But for me, I don't show up as my best self for anyone when all I'm doing is serving my daughter. And when there is no space created for me to serve myself, my own passions, my own needs, I don't show up how I want to show up with anybody in my life. And so, part of the realization came, honestly, with this. There was a death in our community of a parent a young man, a young father who was killed in a car accident in his 20s. And in the span of my daughter's lifetime, that has happened 3 times in our disease community,
Oh
where a
my gosh.
father in his 20s has been killed in a car accident and his child with SMA outlived him. And it kind of was like, my life is happening now too. And even though she has this disease and like, it, if you look at it statistically, she's far more likely to die before me than I am to die before her. Maybe that's not what's in my life plan. Maybe I'm going to die of some random cause tomorrow. So am I spending? Yes, we're not manifesting that, but you don't know. And the point is, therefore, your life is happening now. And when you see it that way, there becomes, there's this, I don't want to call it an urgency because it is a gratitude for the life that you have now. And it is it's the realization that now is the only time you're guaranteed, the moment you're in. So really now is the moment to do what you would love. And so I just started taking baby steps. And one of the first baby steps I took was to start taking karate lessons with my son. And that was something that we shared together. And I did that for years and years and years. So that was one of the first things I started. I made friends outside of the caregiving community, and I started hanging out with people who had nothing to do with being caregivers and just could just be a way to be a human being and a woman and a mom outside of that setting. And it was just one tiny thing after another. And then you turn around and you're like, wow, I've actually kind of done some things here.
I love this. And I really encourage every mother, whether they're, the mother of a special needs child or not, that they have to put the oxygen mask on themselves first. And I think women are conditioned to not do that. I think that we are conditioned to put everyone else first. But we suffer as caregivers when we do that. We do not show up as our best selves, like you said. And when we do, and we should allow ourselves time to refresh, go get a haircut, get some nails done, whatever it is that is taking care of yourself, going and exercising, you become a better caregiver and you're more, you have just more bandwidth to care for others. And I love, and this is something that I hear more often than not from mothers of children with special needs, is that they don't reach out for help. They do everything themselves. They have difficulty trusting others sometimes to be able to come in and care for their kids. And that's totally understandable. You're on high alert. You're mama bear. Yeah. But when you can just dip your toe in and allow others to come in and help, you can do that in a slow process. You can monitor it, and then you can make sure that, and I got to say, the caregivers that you have for Kennedy are amazing. They really impressed me as well. Yes. That is vital in order to have the entire family well cared for, because you did need to spend time with your son. He needed his mom as well. Still does, even though he's how old is he?
He's going to be 19 this month. Yeah.
He's a man now. I got to meet him, and it was lovely to meet him. And I can only imagine that opening up that time to spend with him was so meaningful for him as well. So I so encourage people to take advantage of help. It does take a village, everybody, and you really do. You can grow so much more as a person and a family if you let people in and allow people to help you. So let's talk about helping parents move from surviving to thriving. This is one way, helping moms understand that they can put the oxygen mask on themselves first. But tell me what transformation looks like in real life. Where does it begin for parents?
So, and I want to comment in one way on the oxygen mask thing, because I know when I heard that, and particularly in the beginning, I was like, hush, I don't want to what are you even talking about? You have no idea what we're going through over here. Like, I have given my own child mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. So don't tell me about putting the oxygen, you're just like, stop. And here's how I frame that now with parents. There are times, particularly if you're dealing with a child who has chronic medical conditions, or even a child, honestly, who has chronic like mental health issues or acute mental health issues. There are times and there are situations where your needs are going to need to be sidelined for a bit, right? If your child needs to mouth, you're going to, whatever happens, you're going to give mouth to mouth before you meet whatever need you have in that moment, because that need is a literal life-saving need. So I like to acknowledge that in the space that I live in, sometimes there are situations that call for me to tend to them. The problem arises when you're chronically living in the space of not putting your oxygen mask on first. And that's where you operate from constant depletion. You're never filling your own cup ever. And it starts to manifest in your own body in all the ways that, we don't want it to manifest. So I just wanted to qualify that from the people in my space who are like, you don't get it. Do you know what I mean? So in terms of the transformation, for me, every transformation starts with a decision. You have to decide. You have to decide that you're not going to live this way anymore. And that's why I think like sometimes it can take a long time for people to get to that place, because the pain has to be deep enough to say, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't know what the alternative is, but this is not an option anymore. And that's what happened for me in that ICU room. I was like, I didn't know it at the time, but that Disney cruise was me making a decision for a different way of living, because it opened the door to everything else that followed. And I think one of the things that I see in our disease, in the community of parents of children with special needs, is that there's a lack of awareness around the fact that there is an alternative way to experience this journey. And the way that I describe it is that we are given this menu when our kid is diagnosed. Like, you join whatever community is out there, whether it's the moms of kids with autism or spinal muscular atrophy or cerebral palsy, whatever it is, and you see how everyone else is experiencing this journey. You meet fantastic people. You meet people with really good souls and really good heart, and they are doing an amazing job of caregiving their child. But you also hear about all of the struggle, every fight you're going to need to prepare yourself for, the hypervigilance you need to be exercising, the hardship you should expect. And you don't hear anyone saying, I love my life. I feel fully supported. Even the circumstances that I don't love that come my way, I know how to navigate them from a place of peace. You don't hear that. And so you don't know that it's an option.
Yes.
What I describe to people is there's a secret menu. You gotta be aware that there's a secret menu out there, and you can order up the life you want off of the secret menu.
Yes.
And when you know about the secret menu, you're like, wait, what? What? There's a different way to do this? Tell me more. How do you do that?
Yes.
And then you're, now you're like, possibilities. What does this mean for me?
Oh.
So, yeah.
I absolutely agree. I think so many people, and what you're talking about is just a fundamental mindset shift. That's it. And I think a lot of people, they get tunnel vision when they are in whatever trench they're in. And it can be with a special needs child or just in general, just people in general. They get tunnel vision and they don't see any other way out. And they don't really understand that it's simply a decision that you can make. And that's what's so powerful about your journey and your story with Kennedy, is that you just had this idea that would not go away. And what I also love, and how it ties into the work I do and even parts of my TEDx speech, is you listened to your intuitive voice. You actually heard, I can't get this out of my head. This is something, it's telling me to do this. and you listened to it and you just leaned into it. And I think that that is so inspiring to anyone, let alone to a parent with someone with special needs. It's so important to understand that it doesn't have to be drudgery. It doesn't have to be difficult all the time. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it is the hardest thing you'll probably do in your life, but there can also be joy in that journey. So we're running out of time. Oh, I wish I had so much more time with both of you. Tell people how they can come and work with you. Tell them how they can get a hold of you. Tell them how they can have a FaceTime with Kennedy, because I know you two are just going to be inundated with calls after this TEDx talk comes out.
Yeah, so we are on Instagram. It's Jennifer and Kennedy, so you can follow us there. And my website is Jennifer Swann with 2 N's and Jennifer 2 N's and Swann coaching.com. And I'm in the process of launching my digital course for parents of children with special needs, which is called Unlimited: Empowering You, Empowering Your Child. So both on my website and on Instagram, there's going to be links for that. And I have a free class coming out. It's called The Secret Menu.
Love this. I love this.
So if you follow us in either of those places, we're also on TikTok with the same handle. But if you follow us in either of those places, you'll definitely you'll know what the updates are.
Oh, and I see books and keynote addresses and so many things in both of your futures. I mean, Jennifer, I'm just so honored to know you. I am so glad that we got to meet and become friends. And I know that this is going to be for life. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. But most especially, thank you so much for inspiring me and inspiring so many people out there.
Thank you for having us. And I don't think I ever properly thanked you for the pep talk that you gave Kennedy while I was on stage, and she was having a little bit of a freak out backstage before she went on. So thank you for that.
Oh, it was my honor. I was just absolutely just thrilled that she asked me to do that. It's like, oh, I get to be Kennedy's friend. Yay, this is the best. So that pep talk was a piece of cake. I was just so happy. And I'm so glad that it helped to relax her, because she was shining when she went up there, and it was so brilliant. Well, thank you for joining me, Jennifer. And please thank Kennedy again for me. Yes.
I will. Thank you for having us.
And thank you all for joining the ANEW Insight Podcast. I am, of course, looking forward to the next exciting interview, and really hope you join me next time.
Thanks for tuning into the ANEW Insight Podcast. Please remember, the contents shared on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. You can find us anywhere podcasts are streaming, on YouTube at my.anew.insight and at anew-insight.com under the ANEW Insight Podcast tab. And follow us on our socials at my.anew.insight on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more updates. Tune in next time and evolve with us.